All right. I'm very happy to be here with John Hight, the president of Wizards of the Coast, for another episode of The Big Show. John, thanks for coming on.
It's amazing to be here, and we haven't talked in so long. What's it been, like 15 minutes?
Yeah, John, we literally just walked over from a session at the main stage to sit down here and have another conversation. So John is super sick of me at this point, but we're going to push through.
No, I just can't imagine what else you're going to ask. So.
Well, so this, like I was saying, this conversation is going to be all about you and the evolution of your career in gaming.
So it's going to be a pretty short session.
Yeah, 15 years at Blizzard and then no. But I mean, really, you have a long running and listen, I hope you don't mind me saying, illustrious career in gaming, working at some of the biggest studios. And to your point, I mean, you didn't necessarily know that you were going to move over to Wizards when you left Blizzard. So What about this opportunity made you think, I need to take this on? This is right for me.
Well, it's funny because Hasbro had reached out to me, like on LinkedIn through a recruiter. And it was a very kind of curious, like, hey, there's a major game company that's moving into digital publishing that has a retail presence. I'm like, who the heck could that be? I'm like, is this Sega? I mean, and when they, we'll divulge it to you, if you're serious about it. So I said, yeah, tell me more about it. And at the time, I was gonna take a little break. I'd been working, straight for 13 years at almost 13 years at Blizzard. And then I thought, probably start my own studio. I'm not done by a long shot. But when they said, this is Wizards of the Coast, I'm like, you're kidding, and I hadn't really followed the news, so I didn't even realize that was a possibility or there was an opening there.
Right.
But, I played Magic, when it first came out. Like I introduced Magic to everyone in my neighborhood and even, got my wife playing it. We used to go to tournaments together. Yeah. And
no wonder you married her.
Yeah, well, I mean, and to be honest with you, we played video games. So it's not like her thing as much as it is my thing. Yeah. But she's fun to play with, and especially awesome. Family type games, which Magic can be. You can be very highly competitive. Actually, it's a pretty funny story. I'll tell you. We were in a tournament together, and she had a pretty wicked black white deck. She had some Jazam gens, which back in the day were pretty brutal cards.
Oh yeah, metagame.
And we were playing, and there was, double elimination in the tournament, and she just had a really rough, round, and she ended up losing. I ended up losing my round. And then we look at who are we being matched up with? We were matched up with each other. Yeah. And we sat down across from each other. And we both went, ah.
But here's the question. Who won that set?
Oh, she won. Yeah, she absolutely won.
All right. Well, probably good for your marriage overall. That
no, I did not let her win. She would know if I had. No, are you kidding? Yeah.
So she's a black-white player. What's your color combo? Now we're getting into it.
Today.
Yeah. And then now I want to know then and now.
Back then, well, I did send her around black because for Christmas she went out and bought me it was an unlimited Black Lotus. And the cool thing about it is the card shop that was there was in Orange County. The guy that sold it to her, is the guy that runs a lot of our tournaments, Scott Larrabee, at Wizards. So years later, when I'm touring Wizards, like, oh my God, Scott, you work here. And it was like, he was the guy that brought me into Magic, and there he is.
Wow.
Working on Magic. Doesn't have the ponytail anymore, but
do you still have the Black Lotus?
I do not. We bought our first house and sold my Magic collection and my Fringe Horn, and but we got it into the house.
It's a good reason. It's a good reason to sell.
The Wizards team has helped me build up a pretty good collection. We have pre-release parties, and we give, our players, our players, but our employees, booster packs. And so I've been able to build up a pretty good collection since I've been there.
So we're going into a real rabbit hole, but I got to ask, have you gotten one of those special custom cards that I've seen going around that Wizards employees sometimes get? Like the ones that are not official cards, but have like weird rule tweaks, or maybe you have to leave the company to get that.
Nah, we do have a thing we do annually, and we haven't made announcements yet, but I don't believe we have, so I'm not going to be the one to do it, but I wanted to change a little bit of the dynamics of who qualified to get those. But yeah.
Interesting. So let's go back to your color combination. I want to, what is your current color combo?
Yeah, I mean, right now, on standard playing red white, and I'm about to build a new commander deck around Avatar, the last Avatar.
Love it.
because it's going to make some really good. There's some great commander cards in there. But this last one I was playing, more of as a black with predominantly white and green. But I have ways of fetching, mana, so I don't have to carry, I'm carrying mostly black mana, but I'm able to transfer that.
Right.
So
interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
but red and white's pretty killer. It's a lot of fun, because I love doing damage, but then I also like that white gives you some protection and life linking, and
so. That's my color combo of choice.
Oh, cool.
Red, white, and then if we can get some green in there, green is always nice.
Yeah,
you know how it is. So let's go down this path. I think this is interesting. Tell me more about how you engage with both Magic and D&D and other Wizards products and ecosystems now. You said you have this deck.
Oh, you mean like me personally?
Yeah, like currently.
Yeah,
are you going out to game nights?
On the D&D, yeah, we do have, like, monthly we have different formats. So there's a commander night, there's a standard night. I think they have, they have a couple other formats I haven't played in. We do every Tuesday. So employees, we provide lunch for employees that are in the office, and then we all get 6 boosters, and we usually build decks and play during lunch. And whenever I can, I'll participate in that. At home, I have a group of friends that I play with. So I'll play with my son, my oldest son, because he normally plays Commander, and he's pretty brutal. He plays a control deck with artifacts and blue, and it was like the one game that we had. I mean, literally, I got out 1 mana, had nothing I could really play, so played my land, and then turn moved to him, and I never got another turn. Wow. I mean, he literally shut me out, from that point on. So that was kind of funny. That doesn't happen all the time, so don't worry. That's just a weird experience where a kid's trying to beat his dad.
You can always write him out of the will if it gets really bad,
Nah, we didn't do that.
I'm just kidding. So you play with your family.
Although and this is kind of, I shouldn't tell anyone this, but my wife and I did think about the whole will thing and everything. And so we thought, well, there's things that we have 2 boys. There's things that they might want, that they might fight over. So the resolution of who gets it is actually going to be a D20.
That is amazing.
So sorry, boys, you didn't know that. I just spilled the beans. No weighted dice.
I'm gonna suggest this to my parents as well. Yeah, 1 through 10, I get the house, and then 10 through 15 or 15 through 20, my brothers can maybe.
We kind of thought, we'll be gone. Hopefully they'll miss us. It's usually kind of weird when that stuff happens. So I wanted to go out with, even though I'm not there, there's still going to be a game at the very end.
Well, it's probably better than having them play a game of Magic the Gathering to determine who gets what.
Yeah, because my older boy would win for sure.
Oof. Yeah, I heard that here first.
So anyway, on the D&D side, I'm part of a regular D&D campaign, and as you might imagine, I'm playing with the people at Wizards that some of them have been DMs for a long time. And this campaign, we've been doing it, I think, about 6, maybe 7 months now.
Wow.
And it's really intriguing. It's a lot of fun. I'm playing it's a fire wizard, but I just to be a weirdo, I've got wild magic, and of course the DM has forced me to roll on that table a couple times. One time in the middle of a fight, my character got inebriated and almost fell off the edge of a pier, but was worthless for 2 hours.
Love it.
But chromatic orb, oh my God, that's like my go-to, because I kind of hang back. I can pick, well, I think maybe fire damage for this one. This might hurt him. Hurl that thing. Great distance, a lot of damage.
So are you a spellcaster in general when you play Dungeons and Dragons, or is this new for you?
I hadn't really played Sorcerer before, and I'm really digging it. I decided for this campaign, I played, Paladins, I played Ranger, I love Barbarian. I like being, damage dealer. They're fun to just kind of run in and do audacious things. But
I'm a Barbarian. So
are you?
Yeah. This resonates.
So I think Sorcerer's fun. I think I'm going to stick with it for a while.
Awesome.
And the group is really fun, and it's nice because I can stop being, the president of Wizards, and I can just be, this foolish sorcerer named Horvath, that does, crazy damage, but also makes some mistakes.
So this, and maybe I can use this to bring us back to a little bit about your kind of career trajectory, although I would totally just continue talking about this for the rest of the podcast. this culture of play at Wizards of the Coast, is this
Yeah.
something that you have kind of fostered or looked to push since joining, or was
Well,
this already in
no,
place?
that was already in place. I mean, everyone there plays games, tabletop games, video games. It is a culture that is just immersed and loves games. And we all talk about games together. It's like, it's funny. Well, I don't want to digress. I was going to talk about one of the video game groups that we started and we
No,
were
do it.
playing together, but it was there. But I think, I'm part of it, and I think the team, tell me team, but I think they appreciate the fact that I'm a gamer and I'm in there playing with them and that we interact with each other on that level. And I've made a lot of games. I've
Hmm.
been a designer, I've been an engineer, I've done art, I've even made sound for games. And so
Sure.
I have a deep appreciation, understanding of how difficult their jobs are, and how much, skill goes into what they do, and the fact that they're always, perfecting their craft. And I don't treat it as like, oh, well, they're robots and, here's an assignment, go do it. Why,
Yeah.
why does that take so long? I mean, I get it, and I appreciate yeah, not only appreciate how difficult it is what they do, but I enjoy the end result of it. Like, I can't wait to be in the betas, and, it's fun. A couple of times they've let me come down to the Magic team and, play some of the, upcoming,
Ooh,
decks.
like test cards, those like
Yeah,
weird looking.
yeah,
Oh, that's so cool.
yeah,
Oh, and I think this. Let's widen this a little bit to talk a little bit more about like the culture of Wizards of the Coast. When I guess podcast listeners will have to go back to our session to get the full context of this, but we talked a little bit earlier today about the changes that you implemented to sort of
yeah.
streamline the structure of different teams. What what elements of Wizards, whether from a structural or a cultural perspective, did you know that you wanted to protect and preserve when coming to the company?
Well, I mean, you've got these incredible games in both D&D and Magic that, I mean, they form people's childhoods. A lot of your friendships are based around people you met in these games. So those are sacred, the worlds, the stories, both the ones that were crafted in our campaigns, but then the stories you tell each other, when you're playing or acting this out. So preserving that, making sure that, you know, as we look at these worlds, and I'm very conscious I don't use the word IP. We've talked about that before. This is not a commodity.
Yes.
It's not intellectual property. These are worlds, stories, things fantasies that you want to escape into and be part of. And so making sure that we're extremely thoughtful and careful, and that we present how we grow these worlds and where we take them next through the lens of our players. So it's important that we be players, and it's not important that everybody at Wizards plays every game or is a master at it, but at least understands, why our players are so excited about it and what is the
Yeah.
experience for them. And so one part, and one of the structural changes I made was to, essentially reorganize this in the form of verticals, so that Magic is a vertical led by ultimately a single leader that gets to and has to make the decisions ultimately about what goes in and what doesn't go in,
Hmm.
because what you make part of, both the worlds you create and the world and the people that work on them, is one of the most important decisions you can make as a leader, right?
Yeah.
And these individuals are not rock stars. They are not going in and designing everything. So we're not a rock star culture. We are a team, and we value what each team member brings to the table, literally the table, to make these games. But it was important that we not do this in a fractured way. Oftentimes well-meaning, companies will approach these big, worlds as, hey, we gotta make sure that we can exploit these in many ways as possible. So we need to, farm this out. We need to have a
Yep.
lot of different people chasing opportunities, and everyone intends to do well with it, but the end result can sometimes feel like a crazy quilt, where it's like, hey,
Absolutely.
wait a minute, this isn't canon, or this thing doesn't make sense relative to that thing. And fans, they see that stuff, and they feel like, wow, you don't even have enough appreciation and attention to detail. How could you do that? And they get
Yeah.
really upset. And with a history of 50 years in D&D, it's no joke to make sure that we're faithful to everything that's occurred in those 50 years. And so the people that we have there, they take their jobs very seriously, and they're great, historians. But we also have to, bring it, make it go another 50 years. So we have to create new things. So how do we do that in a thoughtful way that feels genuine?
Awesome. Love that.
So structuring it that way. So we had a singular leader who ultimately has that responsibility, and somebody that's accountable. That's who I go to for like, hey, what is happening in D&D next?
Right.
Where should we go next with it? What is your vision for it? And I think we appreciate when you have the right person in those roles. I think we all appreciate when we see that, right? Someone that you can tell really cares about your favorite game or your favorite world.
So just to, I guess, break this down, you've mentioned that two of those verticals are Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
What are the other primary verticals?
So then the next thing for us is, this is the vertical that gives rise to other verticals, and that's what I call digital ventures.
Okay.
So that's where we take either new IP like Exodus, and we nurture it, and hopefully, if Exodus, if it resonates with an audience, then it'll become a vertical in its own right. But we want to make sure that it gets all the love and attention that we would give Magic or D&D, which are more substantial and greater awareness. And it's also an area where we take some of Hasbro's existing games and hey, would this make a really cool video game? Do we and we kind of approach it in the sense that we're out there fishing. We're talking to developers. We're seeing, do you have a passion or interest in, Transformers or G.I. Joe or Monopoly, what have you? And then what's the right relationship to have with them? Like if they have an expertise that we don't have, then maybe that's a license relationship that we have, like we did with Scopely. They did an amazing job with Monopoly Go. We would have never thought of that, and yet it's brought so many people to the world of Monopoly, or it might be a situation where, okay, this is a game that we like this developer. We really love the idea that they have. We think this would make a great D&D game. Do they feel the same way? And do we move into a different, either a co-venture relationship or a publishing, where we fund relationship. So we're pretty versatile in that. For us, it's more about, what's the right thing for that partner, and what's the right thing for the game.
Got it. No pressure on this one, but what is a game that you did not work on that you would have loved to have worked on during your career? To say that you have in your,
there's a bunch in my career. If I think more recently, it's interesting. This is both something from long ago and more recently. And honestly, it would be Baldur's Gate 3. And the interesting story about that is I actually, when I was at Atari and I was on the publishing side, Atari had licensed the D&D license. And my responsibility was to make video games based on D&D. And this is 20 years ago, all right? I think maybe longer. Yeah.
So you actually worked on D&D video games.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Oh.
Yeah. Demon's Stone, Forgotten Realms, that was on PlayStation 2, Dragon Shard, which was on PC. It was an RTS game. But, Atari had just published Temple of Elemental Evil. And that was with, the Troika guys that had done the original Fallout. And so I'm like, hey, we got to do a sequel to Baldur's Gate. So I started concept development on Baldur's Gate 3 with a guy that I thought, man, he is so talented. And he put together an incredible demo. It was Ken Levine.
Wow.
And this is before BioShock.
Huh.
And it was beautiful. And I was like, this is going to be amazing. Well, Atari kind of fell on hard times, and unfortunately they were in a position where they were having to shed products. And I think that they were just pretty gun shy about trying to do a product that big and a project that big. The good news story is it kind of liberated Ken to go on and do BioShock, which, was great for the game industry.
Right. All's well that ends well.
But I missed my shot at making BG3 then. And then, the BG3 that we see today is such an incredible game. It's cool, but I've always, I was Atari's executive producer on Neverwinter Nights, and I've always been fascinated by, branching dialogue and, player choice and just the technology behind, offering those choices, making them meaningful, tying that together with all these character classes, the complexity of it. I've always thought that would be cool. Way back when I wrote dialogue for my own games. And so I've always been interested in, how you would set something like that up. And, I'm a bit of a jokester and I have a sense of humor. So I'd love to have done, some of the characters that are more witty
Awesome.
in those games.
What do you see as the next major growth area in gaming? And I want to
next major what?
Major growth area.
Growth
And this could be anything from new genres, new platforms, new business models. Just, what do you see coming down the pipeline that excites you right now?
I don't want to just jump on the AI bandwagon because everyone's talking about it, but I think that AI is like fire, right? When humankind discovered fire, it opened up so many incredible possibilities for growth, but then it was also devastating, right? And I think that if you handle it right, we can do wonderful things with it. If we handle it wrong, we can cause a lot of devastation. So handling it right, I think, for instance, I think, if we were to deploy AI to help, make games more adjustable and customizable for players, so like if I make you click on something that says, I want this difficulty level, or if I force you to kind of step outside the fantasy, and realize, oh, there's mechanics behind this,
right?
Then it's not as cool as if the game is learning about you and and your play pattern, your behavior, and it can offer up things for you to do within the game based on that. So, real humans are creating all these scripts, real humans are creating all these scenarios, but the difficult thing that a human and a designer has is it can't design it for everybody, right? So they can put something out there for everyone, but throwing it in the right combination and making it a truly meaningful and fun experience. I think that AI could be a really interesting and untapped resource for us to have that kind of, a game that adapts its behavior or adapts its difficulty, or even serves up, the types of things that you are more interested in doing. So I think that would be exciting for us. I think, we all talk about VR and how cool that will be. I mean, I had the privilege of meeting William Gibson, who's like, my hero. It's kind of cool. Like
so cool.
I have a Subterranean Press first edition Neuromancer, sorry. And I brought the book to him. I said, would you mind signing it? Now, this is like years later that he wrote, a dedication to me saying, hey, John, I hope you're successful in cyberspace, which he coined that term.
That's amazing.
So it's something that I think we've all fantasized about. We all want to be part of that and see that. And I mean, we're in different ways, technologists and, entertainers, we're all chasing it. We're all telling stories about it. But I think it is happening now. It will continue to happen. But I'm excited about that.
Listen, I honestly sense we're at the beginning of a deep nerd out about science fiction, because I have so many thoughts, and I could tell you about, how I nerded out about meeting Neil Stephenson as well. William Gibson is next level, but I was just told that we're out of time. So I think that's the Big Show podcast. Thank you so much, John.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Yeah, I love this. You've now spoken to me for about a full hour, so I'll let you go, but much appreciated. Seriously.
Cool.